Hi, we're the Campers, and our project is tlid. I'm Daniel Briz.
I'm Austin Appel.
And I'm Stephen Welberg.
Uh, our project was a puzzle game with the main mechanic being flipping the board through different environments. This includes the colliders as well. Uh, Other features include controlling two characters sequentially, as well as teleporting between levels and changing the different terrain with the flipping. I primarily did the character animations and controls. I worked on transitioning between levels so that it was seamless. I implemented the portal mechanics. I did some of the design for the tutorial levels. I debugged some of the code when towards submission, and I worked on the start screen and credit screen.
I was in charge of developing the aesthetics, so that involved creating and editing any assets we made in-house or used online. I also helped with any of the technical sides, any of the technical aspects of the animation. This involved getting the flipping to look correctly with different elements and having the movement be seamless even when it was reversed. I also helped on the level design, plus researching different types of level design from different games. And I also worked with debugging the code near the end.
I was the lead programmer. I worked a lot with the C# scripts and hooking them all up to the game elements. And then I also worked on mostly the flipping mechanic and the whole design of that. And then I also assisted with different other elements of the game design and the UI, as well as play testing and debugging the code.
So these are our literature sources. They involve literature on how to make and design a good puzzle game, as well as puzzle games that exist and use a similar mechanic to what we wanted to develop. In addition to some tutorials and like lectures on how to put a game like this together.
So this is our sequence diagram for the main menu. Obviously, we included a quit functionality to exit the game, as well as credits, and then a settings menu where you could change the different controls and graphical settings, and then the start game button to begin the game loop. This is our flowchart diagram for our game loop. We begin by loading in the first level, and then this is sort of how the whole game works, where you explore the level and then learn a new mechanic, and then use that mechanic to find a potential solution and then test that out. And then once you know if your solution works or not, that'll ultimately allow you to complete that level and move on to the next one. And this will be completed until the game is finished.
So this is the entity and relationship diagram for tlid. Unity handles a lot of it when you're in game development, but we still had to put it together. So the main game tlid has characters and levels, and in each level, the characters are set up in specific spots, and also there's a map plus a goal for the character to complete. The character itself includes the main character, which controls the movement and controls the flipping, as well as clones that can have reversed movement from what the player inputs. The goal of the game involves portals, so wherever the portals end up, that's where the character's trying to go. And then the maps are a combination of tile maps and colliders. Both of those have 4 elements, so that as you flip, it's flipping between each of those 4 elements. And that's what encompasses tlid. This is some screenshots of our GUI. We've got the introductory screen for the player on the left, which got some basic options for them to do. And then as they enter the game, they're given some prompts they have to go through, but the rest of it is just gameplay mechanics. Okay, now we're going to demo our program. Here's tlid, credits, back out, hop into play. You start, and just in the screen, you can move around, not really knowing what to do. But then, at a certain point, a little dialog box will pop up, and I'll give you some instructions. And so here, we told us to press X, and doing that, we got our first flip. And so this, as you can see, changes the board, changes what's going on, and we can now actually go down into here because it's all dried up, and go here. So through this, we keep progressing through the game, and we'll get more and more mechanics to try out. So now, flipping isn't the correct thing here because everything looks the same. But if we go up here, now we have access to more. And so here, now we're stuck on this little island. We don't really know what to do. We can try flipping, but it's not actually helpful. And so as we add more and more stuff, there's more prompts to help us along with this. So now we introduce the other dimension of flipping. We can flip across the y-axis now. So if we try that, everything's dried up again. So you might have been able to catch on that there's certain dimensions. There's 4 total, and we can keep flipping between them. And in the one that is a little yellower, which is the driest dimension, we can walk across this area and reach the portal. And here we're going to have 2 players. So with just the one character, doesn't actually do anything. We've got the 2. And we can flip, but even that doesn't get us to where we want it to be. Can't go in. So we got to find a way to use both these dimensions to get what we want. So the trick here, I already know it, and if we do this and this manipulates them so that they're equal levels this way. We go here, and it gets to this dimension, so we can get them a little closer, so when we flip here, now it's perfectly lined up. And so with this, they can then hop on their portals. And that's a demo for tlid. We're going to wrap up with a discussion on technical problems and solutions. Some of the issues we had were the mathematics behind flipping. So with multiple levels, sometimes not everything was centered around the x and y axis, 0 and 0. So that required to do some math to get the cosine wave to fit properly, because that's what we were using to flip the components. It's just cosine, a cosine function. So we had to do a little bit of trig and making sure each component had the correct, each entity had the correct component attached to it so that it would flip properly. We also had issues transitioning between scenes. There was multiple ways we could have implemented it. We looked into all of our options. We ended up picking a situation where each different tile map was a unique scene, and we made sure that the player character was maintained as we moved between them. Finally, there were some issues with collisions when we had the secondary player, depending on their movement pattern. So we had to make sure that the movement point, which is actually different than the player, wasn't attached to it. We had to make sure the movement point was moving along with the character. So you couldn't visually see that, so that caused a little bit of issue, but we got that all working. And that is the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much. That was tlid.